Hello, this is Salvatore Vinciguerra. Welcome to this video on the World War II Museum located in New Orleans, Louisiana. The National World War II Museum tells the story of the American experience in the war that changed the world, why it was fought, how it was won, and what it means today, so that all generations will understand the price of freedom and be inspired by what they learn. Dedicated in 2000 as the National D-Day Museum and now designated by Congress as America's National World War II Museum, the institution celebrates the American spirit, teamwork, optimism, courage, and sacrifices of the men and women who fought on the battlefront and served on the home front. The National World War II Museum is a top-ranked museum, and I love to visit this museum, and I visited this museum several times when I come to New Orleans, and that's because it takes more than one visit to really appreciate what's inside this museum. The National World War II Museum is located in the Central Business District of New Orleans. However, it's very close to the French Quarter, and I want to say that there's a lot of transportation from trolleys to buses that can get you to this location. Please look at the description box below as I posted a link to the National World War II Museum's website so you can take a look at all the different admission prices. I do know that they give discounts to get into the museum for different people, so it's worth a check, and also look at what days of the week that they're open. Even though I could spend hours, maybe half a day to an entire day in this museum, other people may just want to spend 2 to 3 hours, and that may be all that you need to view this museum. I personally would not do that. I personally would get there as soon as the museum opens and have lunch here, and there are plenty of different places where you can grab lunch and then continue your visit until maybe it closes in the evening. After you get your admission ticket, go ahead and I encourage you to wait in line to board this train. The train is a simulation exhibit that mimics the experience of soldiers going off to war, and in the train there's an interactive dog tag which is used to determine which individual a visitor will be following. You can experience this museum any way that you want. You can even skip the train. However, if you want a more personalized experience, if you want a more in-depth experience, then the train is well worth your time to wait for. And now let's listen in to my experience of riding the train.
I shipped overseas to Edinburgh, Scotland. We had to be in good shape, so we trained by walking and hiking with all of our gear. We met our first patients, British soldiers who had been wounded in the North Africa campaign. Treating these men prepared us for what bombs, bullets, and shrapnel can do to the human body.
I wrote about what was really going on in North Africa because I thought Americans didn't have an accurate view of the situation. It was not all strawberries and cream.
The men and women who served in World War II began their journey on a train like this one. You too are about to embark on an extraordinary journey. Tap your dog tag at the numbered stations to check in with your World War II individual and hear the next chapter of their story. Explore and save featured items you like to your dog tag collection.
Whether you visit the museum on a regular basis or not, I highly suggest that you take a look at their visiting exhibits. This is one of them on the photography that was used in World War II. And also, they do have a movie theater which has a 4D, 3D experience, which is very realistic about World War II, just to get you kind of in the mood. And just be warned that some of these experiences throughout the entire museum, if you have PTSD, if you, react differently to hearing gunshots and, some of those things, just be warned that some of the museum's design gives you such a realistic experience that it may be bad for certain people visiting it. For example, I remember visiting the National Prisoner of War Museum in Andersonville, Georgia, and that particular museum just gave you some very interesting feelings. Looking at the artifacts, looking at the design of how the museum was created, could trigger a variety of feelings and emotions depending upon who's visiting the museum. And I remember visiting that museum specifically, and there were veterans, maybe former prisoners of war, and they were triggered. In the opening film, people were crying about what was happening in some of those scenes. And so just be very careful when you're visiting this, either by yourself. I don't know what different people's life experiences are in regards to guns and to regards to war. But that is the intention maybe of the museum, is to trigger some of those emotions and get people to understand what some of these wars were about and what our men and women bravely did to, defend the freedom not only of our country, but of those who are very deserving of freedom too.
Unleash ferocious fire in formation. The planes are so low to the ground that the bombardiers and the opposing planes have a terrifyingly clear view of their enemies. As the formation
Give the order to attack June 6th. Under a cloak of secrecy, massive bow covers are ready to attack. But luckily, they're not alone. The McKee, the French resistance, are pitching in and taking the fight to the Nazis.
World War II included many nations from around the world, and that's why it was given that name. It was actually the second of two wars, meaning many of the problems from World War I extended to then unresolved issues and then led to World War II. Tanks and aircraft played major roles, enabling strategic bombing of cities and to the delivery of the first and only nuclear weapons ever used in war. World War II is the deadliest conflict in history, causing the death of 70 to 85 million people, more than half of whom were civilians. Millions died in genocides, including the Holocaust, and by massacre, starvation, and disease. After the Allied victory, Germany, Austria, Japan, and Korea were occupied, and German and Japanese leaders were tried for war crimes. World War II is generally considered to have begun on September 1st, 1939, when Nazi Germany, under Adolf Hitler, invaded Poland, after which the United Kingdom and France declared war on Germany. Poland was divided between Germany and the Soviet Union under the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. In 1940, the Soviet Union annexed the Baltic states and parts of Finland and Romania. After the fall of France in June of 1940, the war continued mainly between Germany and the British Empire, with fighting in the Balkans, Mediterranean, and the Middle East, the aerial battle of Britain and the Blitz, and the naval battle of the Atlantic. Through campaigns and treaties, Germany gained control of much of continental Europe and formed the Axis alliance with Italy, Japan, and other countries. In June 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union, opening the Eastern Front and initially making large territorial gains. In December 1941, Japan attacked American and British territories in Asia and the Pacific, including Pearl Harbor and Hawaii, leading the United States to enter the war against Japan and Germany. Japan conquered much of coastal China and southeastern Asia, but its advances in the Pacific were halted in June 1942 at the Battle of Midway. In early 1943, Axis forces were defeated in North Africa and at Stalingrad in the Soviet Union, and that year their continued defeats on the Eastern Front and Allied invasion of Italy and Allied offenses in the Pacific forced them into retreat on all fronts. In 1944, the Western Allies invaded France at Normandy as the Soviet Union recaptured its pre-war territory, and the U.S. crippled Japan's navy and captured key Pacific islands. The war in Europe concluded with the liberation of German-occupied territories, invasions of Germany by the Western Allies, and the Soviet Union, which culminated in the fall of Berlin to Soviet troops, and Germany's unconditional surrender on May 8th of 1945. On August 6th and 9th, the U.S. dropped atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. Faced with an imminent Allied invasion, the prospect of further atomic bombs, and a Soviet declaration of war and invasion on Manchuria, Japan announced its unconditional surrender on August 15th and signed a surrender document on September 2nd, 1945.
Army is immense and resilient, but too hopelessly antiquated to defeat the Japanese. So the Americans set out to modernize it. But nothing in China is simple. Supplies must travel a winding 15,000-mile journey.
Yeah, because you got it marked out.
After nearly 3 months of intense fighting, the Americans finally near the Irish. Back home, growing lists of war tanks fill the nation's streets. Among the names is the Commander-in-Chief, President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who dies in April 1945. FDR's successor, Harry S. Truman, now faces a monumental
World War II transformed the political, economic, and social structures of the world and established the foundation of international relations for the rest of the 20th and into the 21st centuries. The United Nations was created to foster international cooperation and prevent future conflicts, with victorious great powers, China, France, and the Soviet Union, the UK, and the US, becoming the permanent members of its Security Council. The Soviet Union and the US emerged as rival superpowers, setting the stage for half a century of a Cold War. In the wake of Europe's devastation, the influence of its great powers waned, triggering the decolonization of Africa and of Asia. Many countries whose industries had been damaged moved towards economic recovery and expansion. One of my favorite places to visit at the National World War II Museum is this aviation gallery, and I never knew it is actually named after a former president, George Herbert Walker Bush. And it is an extraordinary just place to come here and take it all in. The aviation, the planes, just hanging from the walls and going up very high to see them from all different kinds of angles is just a very unique experience for visitors.
fleet and thousands of sailors. Use your touchscreens down low.
Okay, y'all, this is the living room.
United States Army Transport carrying Columbus, 1,400 miles west of San Francisco. The sails on this year, governors that can come in the Far East situation will be given to you at approximately 3:35 during the intermission.
He's embarked war with Japan. Oh, knock it off. I didn't believe him. He wasn't shot. It was
In February of 1942, bowing to the hysteria unleashed by Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt signs Executive Order 9066. Other Americans head to the coasts to buy their trades in the shipyards. And when the men leave the fight, over 6 million organization and production of military materials. It's an estimated 14 miles of retool American factories.
This is Salvatore Vinciguerra. Thank you for watching this video on the National World War II Museum located in New Orleans, Louisiana. Don't forget to check out my main channel page where I have a variety of videos on New Orleans, Louisiana and all types of different museums throughout the United States of America. Again, thank you for watching this video and have an amazing day.
I'm taking the world, you'll see. They'll be caught